Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Season 5, Episode 5 of the WeCOACH Podcast, presented by our partner, Hudl, on WIS Sports. Hudl is leveling the playing field for women in sports, both through the technology they create and important events like Breakthrough Summit, co-created with WeCOACH. All podcast episodes are inspired by collective input from our WeCOACH community. Please join us every 2 weeks for thought-provoking discussions focused on timely topics of national significance impacting the coaching profession. I'll be your host, Vanessa Fuchs, CEO of WeCOACH, a one-of-a-kind nonprofit dedicated to offering year-round growth and leadership development to recruit, advance, and retain women coaches in all sports and levels. This podcast is a co-production of WIS Sports and WeCOACH. WIS Sports is the only global podcast network for women's sport. We look forward to bringing you new shows dropping every other Thursday. It's August, and from our WeCOACH family, we'd like to welcome everyone back to school, and we wish you the very best as another academic year gets rolling. We hope you benefited from our podcast two-part series dedicated to July's BIPOC Mental Health Awareness Month. And for August, we're going to feature sneak previews of our new WeCOACH Member Benefits Partners Program, something that we are extremely excited about announcing on August 29th. In our effort to continually enhance the member benefits we offer, we've teamed up with numerous WeCOACH partners to impact and elevate our community of women coaches. Enhanced member benefits will include access to national experts, consultants, speakers, resources, toolkits, products, and much more. And first up today are 3 member benefits partners who will give you a glimpse of what's to come with this new program and when it launches later this month. Let me start with introductions and then we'll dive in. First guest I want to introduce is my former NCAA colleague and longtime friend, Matt Banker, founder of MB Sports Consulting. After decades working at every level of intercollegiate athletics, the NCAA, a conference office, and most recently on campus at Louisville, Matt is paying it forward by applying his vast skill sets to benefit athletics administrators, coaches, and student athletes. We'll get into more specifics in just a bit, but Matt, welcome to the WeCOACH Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Vanessa. Great to be here and be part of the WeCOACH program.
Our second guest is a very special member of our WeCOACH community, Dr. Jen Fry, owner and CEO of Jen Fry Talks. Jen is a graduate of our very first ever Women Coaches Academy, WCA, class number 1. She spent 15 years coaching volleyball before she started her career as a social justice educator. And this is her second appearance on the WeCOACH podcast. So welcome back, Dr. Jen Fry.
Vanessa, thank you for having me. And family, it's good to be back with all my Coaching Academy fam.
Love it. And our third guest I met through one of our WeCOACH events at the Women's Final Four in April, and I was so impressed with her, I just had to find a way to get her connected with our community. Yashica B. Martin, executive coach, speaker, and owner of YBM Coaching Services. Yashica, welcome to the WeCOACH Podcast.
Good morning, Vanessa and the rest of our guests, and hello to the WeCOACH community out there.
Thank you, Yashica. And thank you to each one of you for joining us as partners of WeCOACH. You know, I debated waiting on asking this question until we got into more specifics about what each one of you do, but I reconsidered. I think our members are really anxious to know. And so can you each provide a brief highlight of the types of benefits and services you're offering our members to impact their professional growth and leadership development? You know, this partner program includes experts who do work that positively impact entire athletics departments. So as you touch on your services, maybe also touch on the range of who you serve in your responses. And we'll start with our very own Dr. Fry.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. That's a fabulous question. So I kind of hit it in multitude of ways. So the first thing is that I've worked with from K through 12 to college student athletes, coaches, staff, administrators. I've worked with hair care, NIH, the government, libraries. Like I have had a spectrum of clients. And the things that I focus on is creating a really excellent foundation whenever we talk about social justice aspects. So within that means that I come in for keynotes, workshop sessions. I also have an amazing e-course that's called the Invisible Manual, which allows folks to do the social justice work by themselves, both with their administrations, their staff individually, or even with their student athletes. And that's a really cool component of it, is that they get to do the work with their student athletes as opposed to just separately in silos. And then the other aspect that I do is I have this great collaboration, which is like my baby, and it's called the Sports Equity Collaborative. And I know that we'll chat more about that, but that's really meant to give the technical skills about DEI work, diversity, equity, and inclusion work to folks who are in those positions that might not fully understand what technical skills that they need to be excellent DEI consultants, administrators, staff, or whatever the position is.
Thank you, Jen. Yashica?
Okay. So with YBM Coaching, I am offering two services. They are motivational speaking and executive coaching. And motivational speaking will hit just about any level, from middle school to high school to colleges, even working with departmental staffs and that nature, and really enjoy talking about things from professional development, leadership development. But I really like to focus on a lot of self-awareness and personal development. I think that's really key in touching in a lot of those other aspects that we look to do and grow as professionals. And then with my executive coaching, you can think about executive coaching as an inquiry-based approach to development that allows for self-discovery and awareness that eventually creates action and growth. So in one-on-one sessions with professionals, and this would be whether you are a high school coach, a college coach, or an administrator, we'll put in the work to identify, define, and strategize on bridging any gaps that a member may have in their personal, professional, and leadership development. So those are the two key areas that I am offering my services to the WeCOACH community.
And Matt?
Yes, thanks, Vanessa. One thing that I've really enjoyed over the years is just working with coaches and administrators in the career sort of consulting, even informally, and really wanted to bring that to WeCOACH. And in particular, as coaches are, focusing on their day job, but thinking bigger picture with what their career aspirations are. And at the point in time when they are, pursuing a new opportunity or get a phone call about an opportunity and sort of have to stop and really revisit sort of that process of pursuing, applying, updating resumes, going through the interview process. What are the key topics that universities, for example, are looking for? So having been involved with searches on campus, for example, in a variety of sports, that's one area I'd love to get involved and help coaches who are aspiring and thinking about the next step, and maybe just even refresh sessions when you haven't looked at your resume in a while. You have, updating your professional references and just kind of understanding the process of coaching and landing that next job. So that's certainly one area I look forward to offering to the WeCOACH community. And then also just from an administrative side of things, having worked in areas like name, image, likeness, which is one of the more prominent, obviously, topics in sports these days, especially at the college level, as well as the high school level, but also recruiting, advising to parents and club coaches, high school coaches, kind of how that process works is another area that I have great, experience in, having worked at the NCAA national office, but also at the campus level with a variety of sport programs. So if there's an opportunity to help and provide sort of perspective on those particular areas for the coaches in WeCOACH, definitely excited about doing that.
Amazing. And I know that this is going to be a tremendous benefit to our community. So again, we can't thank the three of you enough for jumping in and saying yes. I want to continue a little bit more here with Dr. Fry. Have I mentioned I love saying Dr. Fry? Jen just recently completed her doctoral degree from Michigan State University. I actually have her graduation photo proudly displayed on my WeCOACH Wall of Fame. Jen, before we highlight the impact you're currently making in the world of sports, let's go back to your volleyball coaching days and share a little bit about your journey to get here.
First, I think we need to make some addendums to what you just said. You didn't say it's the greatest Big Ten school in the nation. So I think we need to make sure we establish. Yashica, I saw you came off mute. This ain't the time. This ain't the time.
Okay, I'll go back on mute now.
It is the best Big Ten school in the nation. And as we know, the Big Ten's about to have 30 schools. It is the best Big Ten school. So I want to say that. And I also want to say that my PhD graduation photo is the anchor of the WeCOACH. It's not just on there. It is the anchor of the wall.
That is correct. Okay. True story.
Okay. Just want to make sure we announce that stuff. So green, go white. So as I was, Vanessa, I coached for 15 years. And I always thought I would be the coach that coaches for 70 years. And, that would be the only thing that I ever did. And I loved coaching. I loved coaching because you get to help these young adults figure out their life through sport. What better way to figure out your life than where you're having to work with a team, you're having to figure out your place on the team, you're having to really understand what it means to be a really good teammate. You have to understand what it means to be able to help others when things aren't going well for you. It shows you what it means to have to maybe put a back seat to what you want to do for the betterment of the team. Like, it is such a great learning opportunity. And the one thing I always say is that being a coach the skill set that being a coach gives you prepares you for any other career. Absolutely. Because you are managing a small company. In some sports, a large company. And so I want especially the members to understand your skill set is so valuable and so transferable. And so if you're thinking of using it in different ways, you could holler at Matt about that or Yashica, but you have the skills. And that's the comfort that when I transferred out of coaching, I gave myself to. I was like, I used to manage a small company. Working at this program coordinator job, this ain't anything compared to what I had to do. And I loved it. And one of the reasons I do the work I do is because I want to give younger me and younger coaches the skills that I didn't have, that I had to learn from bumping my nose. And that's a huge reason why I do the work, is that I'm like, man, I didn't learn about myself. I didn't learn about cultural competency. I didn't learn about conflict. I didn't learn about all of these things that I wish I had the skills for. And that's why I do the work that I do, is I want to give younger, mid-level, and even older coaches skills that maybe they weren't taught because they were told that the X's and O's were the most important thing. But the reality is coming out of COVID, coming out of George Floyd, the X's and O's matter. But if you don't have the other, what some people unfortunately call the soft skills, if you don't have those skills, your team is not going to be the team that you want them to be, and they're not going to be the team that they want to be. And so that's what I do, is from my experience in coaching, saying what skills did I not have that I need to have, and what skills can I then teach coaches, administrators, staff, student athletes to start building to be excellent humans.
I heard a speaker once say that coaches have the ability to have the most transformational influence and impact on the young people that they coach. And you mentioned briefly George Floyd. In February 2020, when I was at FSU, we were fortunate to bring you to campus, Jen, and the timing could not have been any more perfect. You were literally the last speaker, last voice our staff, administration, coaches, student athletes had the opportunity to learn from, engage with before March 2020 happened. COVID shut the world down. We lost Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and then certainly George Floyd was tragically murdered. You now positively impact the world of sport as a social justice educator. So please talk a little bit about Jen Fry Talks. Talk also about your Sports Equity Collaborative and the approach you take with this important work.
Oh, yeah. For me, it's helping people build skills. And I think that's what kind of differentiates me from other DEI speakers, is that I am really skill-based. When you leave my workshop sessions or even my keynotes, you are leaving with some skills. Some skills it might be hard to start peeling back and saying, I need to develop the skill of understanding myself in a more complex way. Well, that's still a skill. That self-reflection piece is so big. And so when I talk about skill-based, I really bring everything back to the person, because we can't do this work from a distance. We have to keep it really proximal to ourselves. And so what I mean by that is when I talk about conflict, one of the things I say is that your relationship to conflict is your culture. How you as an individual, a person, handles conflict is a direct correlation of how your culture is. And many people don't think about that. So many times I've talked to coaches who are saying, my team is this way, they're that way. And I'm like, well, it's a direct reflection of you. Your recruiting is a direct reflection of you. Your hiring is a direct reflection of you. All of those things within the ecosystem of your staff, your team, your department is a direct reflection. And that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes for people because they want to kind of distance it, especially if it's not going the way that they want it to go. Well, that's not me. That's this athlete. That's that. It's like, well, no, it's how you handle all of the aspects, the good and the bad. And so I try and keep this work really, really proximal to people and really focus on pulling back the layers. If you see me present, I wear my hair in an afro. I usually wear a sleeveless top or a short sleeve shirt because I want people to see my full sleeve, not because I paid a lot for it, because I have the cost of a small car on my body, but because I want people to see what being authentic looks like, and as well as pursuing your passion. I think so many times we're told as public speakers or as people in the light, you have to have a certain persona and a certain look. And I wanted to throw that away and say, you can be a professional, you can have a PhD and have a full sleeve tattoo and have a nose ring and have an afro or a mohawk or colored hair or whatever it is that you vibe with. And so giving people the freedom to be who they are and still be quote unquote professional. But the biggest thing is that I want people to leave with skills. And that's why I created the Sport Equity Collaborative. It's 12 weeks. It's 6 weeks of Zoom sessions and then also 6 weeks of self-paced modules. And the goal is to give skills, technical skills. You learn how to create an audit, how to do an assessment, how to do surveys, how to think about your organizational culture better, how to do trauma-informed DEI, and especially how to focus on crisis management. Because people don't know what to do until it hit the fan, right? That's when people figure it out afterwards. Well, I want to help you beforehand say, okay, what things can I put in place to be really proactive so that when it does hit the fan, we have some guardrails in place. And I think Yashica and Matt both have come from college athletics where it's always hitting the fan every day. And so you learn how to better handle it after you went through it. But what my goal is to help you be proactive so that it doesn't hurt as bad or you don't make a bunch of mistakes in figuring out the right way to do it. So the Sports Equity Collaborative is really meant for people who have some type of DEI work on their plate to say, hey, let's teach you the skills that you need in order to be excellent at that position and not have to be bumped on the nose too much and have too many losses to figure out the right way to do stuff.
Well, I can't thank you enough again for the impact you made coming to Tallahassee and impacting my FSU family back in 2020. And then recently we had the opportunity to go down to San Antonio to the Texas High School Coaches Association coaching school. 16,000 boys and girls coaches at the high school level were there and had the benefit of hearing from Dr. Fry, engaging with her and learning from her. I can't thank you enough for pouring into their community as well. My next question, I'd like to open it up for all of our guests, and Yashica, we'll start with you on this one, but Jen touched a little bit on what she hopes to achieve with the schools and coaches, administrators, athletes she works with. Can you talk a little bit about a key takeaway you hope to get across each time you work with a client, whether that be an individual, such as a coach or an administrator, or a group such as a team or staff of people?
Yeah, of course. First, I want to say, I don't personally know Jen, and I mentioned to her earlier that I have been a part of some of her presentations, whether it's been virtual or in person. And I can tell you listeners out there that even if you just heard her speak, that you will get the bang for your buck utilizing her services. I've always thoroughly enjoyed her presentations because they're all so full of data and information. And I found myself, taking that information back to my circle of friends and extending those conversations that we have. So I just wanted to pay Jen some flowers right there and, congratulate you on your doctorate. And you may know my good friend, Ashton Henderson. So all the time, I got to hear about this whole, go green, go white thing.
Yes, Ashton, yes. And that's Vanessa told me too. You hear all about the go green, yes. And
all
thank
the
you
time.
for the flowers. I appreciate
definitely.
you for that.
Definitely. And so to answer the question about like takeaways that I would want, clients and members of WeCOACH to get when they're working with me, it actually piggybacks a lot off of what Jen was talking about. And a lot of the things I like to focus on is, our personal growth. I think we neglect personal growth a lot when it comes to our professional development, our career transition, our leadership development. And we discount a lot of what we do from a personal perspective, in our daily lives and how they play a part in, our perspectives and our biases and, even what we, our trajectory and what we're looking for. So something you're going to hear me say a lot, and I'm going to use this word, is that when I work with clients, the thing I want them to walk away with is the belief of it's possible. I believe that possibility breeds hope, and hope is what, drives us to dream. Hope is what wills us to try over and over again. And so I want each person to know that growth and development is possible, regardless of the time it takes, because we do have to realize that it is not something that happens overnight. And so whether you are a coach, an administrator, a student athlete, or a support staff, it's important to see possibility in every circumstance so that you can continue to show up every day and put your best efforts forward. And I think when, as Jen was saying, when you can know what your skill sets are, when you have these skills, understanding how you use them and growing them allows you to get through any mistakes that you've made. It allows you to kind of work through whether you consider it to be a mess up and be vulnerable in that sense. And Vanessa, I believe in my 40 something years on this earth, I've seen possibility and hope sustain people in the toughest of times. So the concept of it's possible is something that I want, clients to take away from every interaction that they have with me, because if they believe that it's possible, they're more than likely willing to put in the work. And so when we're working together, when I'm working with, clients across the board, that's the one thing I want them to be motivated to kind of get out there and actually take a step towards something that they want. And I'll get a mic to the next person who wants to talk about their takeaways.
Great. Thanks, Yashica. And Vanessa, to your question, just about takeaways for the WeCOACH community, in providing career services, the big thing for me is recognizing that coaches are super busy with coaching and recruiting, right? It's hard to kind of step back, press pause, and sort of look at what you've accomplished, recalibrate on the things that are going to be important through, the interview application process, all this sort of career trajectory and opportunities, and kind of having some assistance and perspective on that process when you're not necessarily thinking about it every single day, right? Coaches have day jobs to coach and to educate and to mentor. So, for me, the takeaways that I would like to provide the WeCOACH community as coaches kind of think about where they want to go with their careers in particular is to feel prepared and feel empowered when they are looking at that next opportunity. And that takes some conversation and some sessions to include, things like mock interviews, going through cover letters, coaching portfolios, to bigger picture things like coaching philosophy, recruiting philosophy, and making sure the fit is there for that job that they may be looking at. So it's both holistic and sort of practical and programmatic in terms of the process itself. But, hoping coaches that I can assist feel that they are empowered and prepared and have really put their best foot forward when they are putting their name in for a job opening in this industry.
Thank you, Matt. And we'll stick with you here for a couple of questions. I'm super excited when you called me for your new endeavor. And before we dive into that, I really want to make sure that our WeCOACH community generally gets an opportunity to get to know our partners through this program. And so give our listeners a bit more about your background, your experience, before we get into your new recent career pivot.
Sure thing. And, we had the good fortune of working together years ago at the NCAA national office, and certainly have stayed in touch over the years as the college community, whether you're a coach or an administrator, it ends up being kind of a small community in some ways, as you build a network of colleagues and friends across the country. And so I spent several years at the NCAA national office up in Indianapolis, doing everything from working with different NCAA committees that included some coaches to helping draft some of the rules, looking at waivers for student athletes, kind of ran the gamut, to also helping launch the NCAA Eligibility Center, which handles all the initial eligibility certifications, both on the academic and amateurism side. So I was really thankful to have that experience, and also the many people that I still stay connected, like you, Vanessa, to this day, that have stayed in and around, college sports and sports in general. And then from there, I've worked at a Division I conference office, the Ohio Valley Conference, and had a great mentor there in the commissioner, Beth DeBush, and, had a chance to both handle everything from some compliance and rules education for the league to the National Letter of Intent program, to helping with our conference championship tournaments, men's and women's tennis to men's and women's basketball and others. So had a great experience there in Nashville at the Ohio Valley Conference for a few years, and then found myself arriving on campus, which was something I wanted to do from a career standpoint, is that I did a unique path of working at the national office and then a conference office, and knew that I really wanted to be sort of front and center with student athletes and coaches and being on campus, and had that opportunity at the University of Louisville, where I spent the last 9 years working both in compliance, risk management, but also as a sport administrator for women's lacrosse, women's rowing, men's soccer, and helping on a variety of other topics of the day, which one we briefly mentioned earlier, certainly name, image, likeness had a prominent role at U of L, helping develop policies and sort of the operations around NIL. So I've been really fortunate for the career path that I have, and part of the motivation of getting into consulting full time is really feeling like you've gained these experiences. And I think Jen and Yashica feel the same, is you're harnessing some really good experiences that you feel you could help others in different capacities. And that's kind of what prompted me to make this move into consulting full time. So that background's kind of what brought me here, including, running searches for both coaches and administrative positions at the college level. And that's where I'm certainly bringing that experience to the table here, and just really enjoy it. I think of many times where informally, while I was at U of L, coaches would ask for feedback that were on our staff, and, hey, I'm thinking about the next move, and what do you think, and how does this work, and who's on the search committee, and all those good things, because I had been sort of on that from the inside out at a university. So I'm excited to get started and to be helping, coaches and administrators kind of figure out their path and their preparation for what may be their next move.
Love it. I love what you said earlier about ensuring that our women coaches feel prepared and empowered as they navigate their career journey. And that's where I think aligning with MB Sports Consulting is going to be so beneficial for our community. Similar to Jen and Yashica, you have recently embarked on launching your own firm, MB Sports Consulting, and a wide variety of services and areas of expertise that you've shared. Is there anything else you want to elaborate on as far as this new endeavor that you've taken on, and what you're hoping to do and impact as far as our WeCOACH women coaches?
One thing that as our panel today has been talking that sort of struck me is really important is the recognition that college sports, high school sports is really evolved. And then I think that's also a reflection of things, certainly as Jen and Yashica mentioned, happening in our society and community. But it's more complex, being a coach, and certainly at the college level. So there's a variety of hats that coaches wear, and certainly helping, not just, again, from a career and job pursuit standpoint, but also just from a sort of management and making sure I don't have blind spots in my roles, I think is just really important. It's something I've really recognized and saw really the last few years for a variety of reasons. Other things like the pandemic certainly had a significant impact on college sports. So, coaches weren't certainly immune to any of this, and certainly their role has evolved from where it was maybe 5, 10, 20 years ago, for sure.
Matt, I want to spend a little time talking about male allyship. Here you are on this podcast. You're outnumbered 3-1 by women, but that's not always the case in the world of athletics. It's well known. Men hold more positions at every level of sport, especially the highest levels of sport, including coaching positions. And we feel strongly about the importance and the role that male allies play in advocating for and intentionally grooming talented, qualified women and people of color to have opportunities to advance in their careers and lead at the highest levels of athletics. One of your first orders of business with MB Sports Consulting, and I'll never forget this, was you reached out to me and asked, how could we partner with each other, WeCOACH and MB Sports Consulting, and you wanted to impact women coaches. So talk about your decision to support WeCOACH as a partner and as a male ally. Share your experiences and specific examples of what being a male ally looks like.
For sure. I mean, a super important, topic to me, in my experiences, including having had the chance to work with, female coaches at U of L and in other capacities in my career, is to really find ways to help and advocate for female coaches that are really good candidates, very qualified. And part of that is just sort of, connecting the dots to make sure that the people who are, in those positions of running a search know about great female coaches that are on the rise and those who, could be the home run hire. And so that's been important to me. I had the good fortune of working with, our women's rowing, women's lacrosse, and, seeing both, at the coaching level and our student athletes and even the administrative level, trainers, nutrition staff, sports medicine, our team physicians, a lot of different roles that females played in the success of our programs, really across the board, men and women's sports, was something that was of particular importance to me, and just helping those women at any level, whether they're coach and administrative role, and certainly, personally having family members and nieces who have competed in sports at different levels, and just seeing that the importance of the opportunity and being an ally is really not a difficult thing to do at all, from where I sit. So that's something, as I knew, Vanessa, you took this role with WeCOACH, is like, boy, this seems like a no-brainer. I know there's a lot of great female coaches and administrators out there, and if I can help them in any way, shape, or form, sort of take that next step, would love to do it, and that's why I'm here.
Well, we appreciate you. And Yashica, you want to add something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually wanted to jump in that. And I thank Matt for, his words and the idea of being a male allyship and the importance of it. I can think back to when I first graduated from college. Fred Batchelor was a head coach, took over the program that I played at Division III school. And he recruited me, and I do mean heavily recruited. I kind of felt like I knew what a Division I athlete felt like from a coaching's perspective, because he went after me for 4 months to be on his coaching staff with him. And coaching was not something that I had wanted to, tip my toe in at all. And I now recognize that it was the best decision of my life. It was the thing that put me on this trajectory to be involved in sport, to be able to impact young people in such a way. And through his tutelage, and just being able to see things from his perspective and watch how he interacted. He was the coach of a women's basketball team. And so to kind of watch how he interacted with, our women players and moving forward in that nation. And so we'll just kind of, he got me on a path to recognize that it's important to see men support and push and advocate. And so he was the reason I ended up getting my master's degree. He was the reason that I stayed in coaching as long as I did. And he was also the reason that, planted to see that I can begin to make change through administration and college athletics. So I just think it's really important that, as Matt was saying there, that, to have that opportunity to show that support for everyone. And it was, so I'm going to give a big shout out to Fred Batchelor, who's at UMES, coaching the women's team there. So, that's why I just want to throw my 2 cents in there.
Thanks for sharing that, Yashica. And Matt, our WeCOACH community welcomes you with open arms. Appreciate the support. It is so important that our women are not only learning from other women, but they're also growing and developing and learning from other men. There is room enough for everyone, and we are at our best when everyone is represented in the room. This next one, I'd like to throw it out to Jen to start, and then certainly chime in if others have some thoughts, but just want to talk a little bit. I hear often from our coaches what challenges they are facing. And I'm just curious to hear from your perspective what you think some of maybe the one biggest challenge coaches face in their profession today. And maybe not only discuss that challenge, but maybe even offer a strategy for helping our coaches break through.
Ooh, that's a hard one. And if I would have to say the one challenge that coaches are facing today, I want to really stress that like the ton of trauma that they are not able to unpack because they are having to move forward at a sprint because everyone wants everything to be the same because of money. And so they are sitting here coming out of COVID or even still in the middle of COVID. They're coming out, the transfer portal, NIL, all of this trauma on their shoulders, and they can't even start to comprehend it because they have to focus on their team. They're coming out of a time where they were maybe by themselves, maybe they were caretakers, maybe they were having to be their kids' teachers. They're having to maybe do it all at once and take care of other people's kids, help to keep their team on track, recruit, watch film, watch games online. All of that trauma, they have not been able to unpack at a level that can then help them work on their mental health. And I think a lot of the mental health focuses on student athletes where we should have a lot of focus. But if the leaders and role models aren't getting the mental health help that they need, they are not going to be able to bring them their full selves to work to be able to then be the best that they can to help those young adults become great humans. And I just, every time I presented, I see these coaches and staff with the trauma that's sitting on their shoulders that they have not been able to touch. They maybe had deaths in their families. They maybe had to deal with really bad COVID with themselves or their family, and they have not been able to process it. Once essentially the schools have opened up, it's been fast forward. Whatever happened to you, you got put in a box on the shelf, forget about it, and move on. And so that's what I think is right now the biggest challenge is how do I rectify really what I've been through and focusing on making sure my athletes aren't transferring and making sure that my athletes are doing whatever NIL stuff that they need. And I have to sit and wake up every day with anxiety of, is monkeypox going to be the new COVID? I have to wake up with anxiety that my athletes are going to transfer. I don't even have a chance to talk to them. Am I going to worry about the anxiety of recruits saying, well, these people can give me better NIL deals? And I mean Division 1 through 3, because we have some excellent D2 and D3 athletes who are getting NIL deals. Like all of that stuff, and win at the highest levels, because if I don't win, I'm going to be fired. And a lot of these coaches, especially Olympic sports, had to worry about the stress for 2 years of potentially being on furlough or their sport being canceled. They literally sat up and watching other schools within their sport canceling their sports. And so they're sitting there, I might be on the chopping block next. What is my family going to do? What are we going to do for money? That's a lot of trauma to have to navigate and now pretend like it all doesn't exist so that we could win for our team. So I'd say that, in my opinion, is the biggest challenge.
Jen, you and I must be on a wavelength here, because that is the exact same thing that I was thinking when Vanessa mentioned that question. And so I'm not going to go through the whole rigmarole, because you hit on just about every aspect that there could be out there that our coaches are doing. And so the thing that I will offer along the lines of that is that I think our coaches, even probably as a staff, as a suggestion, should probably get together and talk about these things things amongst themselves at least, unfortunately, we always are fighting against time. And I always hear, I don't have enough time and I need just a time management. And as you said, there are so many different directions, so many things that are pulling from them. And one of the biggest keys in, that the term, people throw out there is self-care, is understanding that time is probably the most consistent thing that we have as people. Time is always the same. You know exactly where it is at the exact spot. And so it comes down to our self-management. And in order to care for our student athletes, in order to truly be your best and be able to give them your best, you have to be willing to be a little vulnerable. And what I mean by that is being able to share with your team, maybe not the details of what's going on, but letting your team know that, hey, we too as humans are going through some things. We are impacted and affected just the same way. And so I don't know if there are organizations out there or programs such as WeCOACH and the things that they offer, where we can begin to offer a space for coaches to come in and not just actually, get the skill sets and the strategies to kind of deal with that, but to continue to learn how to be more vulnerable with their own teams. Because I think it is something that, our athletes need to see that, even as adults, we don't always have the answers and we're not always at 100%. So being willing to be a little vulnerable, being willing to be more self-aware about your own needs. And then when it comes to asking for help and using available resources, we have to start using modeling that behavior that we're asking of our athletes, so we know that our athletes are paying attention. And so when you're trying to, funnel them toward the resources that are out there, they're paying attention to whether or not you are utilizing those resources as well, or how you are handling your business. So I think our athletes listen to our coaching staffs, and sometimes you are, their person. And so the more you can talk about the fact that you might be going through some trauma, or you might have some mental health concerns, or just some, being overwhelmed, I think it can help our student athletes talk about it more. And I think it makes it more of a safe space for your coaching staff. And that goes all the way down to your managers and everybody you have on there. So I completely agree with Jen on the fact that mental health is a really big, point of contention with coaches right now.
We were
and get a therapist, get a therapist.
Yes.
Get a therapist. They have resources on campus. Use the heck out of those resources, but y'all gotta get therapists.
We were just in Pittsburgh yesterday for a regional workshop. And when we had breakouts, all of the topics were critically important, but certainly Lisa Ald's room, connection, counseling, and coaching. Lisa Ald used to be at Pitt as an administrator in student athlete development. She now has opened up her own practice, and her room was filled to the max. Both times we rotated through these breakout sessions. Mental health continues to come up, and certainly on top of COVID and social justice and equality issues that we've seen over the last couple of years, we then also have been grieving and mourning the tragic loss of several student athletes at the collegiate level. Certainly a topic of primary focus and at the forefront for our WeCOACH community. Yashica, you touched on how time is such a limiting factor. So I want to now spend some time focusing on you and YBM Coaching Services. Later this month, we're going to have the opportunity to go to Tuscaloosa, and Yashica and I will have the opportunity to impact the women's staff at the University of Alabama. And the topic that Yashica will be presenting on is work-life balance, work-life integration, harmony. This concept has kind of been renamed so many times. So I'm curious, one, how do you refer to this concept? And can you give a brief preview of what you plan to share with the staff and coaches down there at Alabama?
Yeah. So first of all, I am so excited about the opportunity to, partner with WeCOACH and to bring, hopefully a great message to the women of the University of Alabama, later this month. And so, how do I refer to this idea of work-life balance, integration, and harmony? I personally don't believe in the concept of it. That's generally accepted, right? To me, I'm a semantics person. And so the idea of work life is something that I reject. I rather refer to it as maybe life role balance, because I feel that work life insinuates that work and life are two separate events, and they aren't, right? We have this one life that we have right now, and it's comprised of many different roles that we play in our lives, and work is just one of those roles that we do. And the unfortunate thing is that in each role, we end up playing roles within those roles, and so that actually becomes the balancing act. So at the Alabama event, we'll be exploring a lot about that concept through two truths and a lie. And I'm not going to give those away right now because I don't want to spoil the anticipation for any of our Alabama folks who might be listening. But one of the things that really want to get across, and even to our WeCOACH community, is that I want us to believe that there is, and this is air quotes, the possibility of balance. However, that balance is supposed to look different from your peers, depending on what you got going on in your life. The idea and the talk of balance is actually it's a subjective word. We talk about having it all, and I think that we individually get to choose what it and all really means. So how you manage those things are going to be important, and it's going to look different. And in today's world, we do a lot of comparison. So we're always looking at other coaches and other people in our lives and wondering how are they handling certain things. And oh my gosh, they must be great that they have everything figured out. And I think, all the stuff that Jen just said, as far as, the things that our coaches have to go through, that in itself should tell you that no one has it all figured out, and life isn't supposed to be figured out, right? It's a thing of ebb and flows. And so we'll talk about that through a little bit as well. And if I could give any advice to our WeCOACH community, I would tell you that if you're looking to make a change in your balance, in your integration, your harmony, whatever word you want to use in that place, know that it doesn't have to be 180-degree change right out the gate. Sometimes that first step is more powerful, more effective, and sustaining than the 15th step. So look to start small, make the changes in very small areas. And I promise you that those little changes will have big, major impact in your life, in your schedule, if you continue to stay true to it, if you continue to practice it. So that's just one of the things that, I'm looking forward to sharing and giving some other strategies when we're at Alabama.
Yashica, that's a new one for me. I really like it. Life role balance. I might steal that or borrow it. So thank you for that. We'll back up a little bit. I want to actually talk some about YBMC, your vision to be one of the leading coaching firms for professionals and leaders to connect their passion to action. Sounds like you took a bit of your own advice and connected your passion to action when starting YBMC just over a year ago. So congrats first on your 1 year anniversary. But talk about your comprehensive professional experiences. We were in the ACC together. You spent many years at Clemson. And what led to the inspiration for YBM Coaching Services?
Well, Vanessa, thank you for that question. So prior to last year, I had been in higher education and collegiate athletics for over 20 years. And that was as an athlete, as I mentioned earlier, as a women's basketball coach. I've been support staff and, academic advising, and I've been a leader, whether it's been spearheading committees, being on strategic alliances, being integrated into the campus community, even outside of just athletics in that way. And that's across all division levels, including junior college and professional organizations. And so one of the things that I love about sport is that it can be a bridge. It can be a bridge to different people, experiences, industries, and places. And so when I started YBM coaching, it was really basically because I find joy in helping people realize possibilities. I enjoy inspiring people to be motivated to take action in their lives. And a lot of my friends, my close circles and stuff will tell you all the time, they start throwing out things about things that they want to do or they wish and they hope they could do. They always, I start talking, they're like, oh gosh, here goes Yashica. Cause I can't help myself from just letting people know that, if there's something out there you want to do, you want to explore this transition or stagnation that you may be having in work or in life, that it is possible to pivot, right? It is possible to explore something without blowing up everything that you're currently in. And so that's been a part of who I've been my entire life, even from a kid. And so when I kind of realized that there was a path where I could use my gift to positively impact people and create a livelihood, I was like, come on now, sign me up, get me out of this 9 to 5. I like the idea of being able to control my schedule and being able to talk and expand my reach and impact beyond one campus, one particular area of campus. And now I can, touch other campuses and other industries and other coaches and just kind of be able to breathe and rejuvenate others, as well as, working through some things like action planning and, increasing confidence and increasing self-awareness and understanding your transferable skill sets. Those are all basic words that we've all heard and learned, but very rarely do we actually put those things into action. And so whenever you're working with me and working with especially in the executive coaching realm, the goal that I'm always trying to do, right? I'm not a counselor, so we're going to put that out there first. I'm not out here to ask a lot of whys. I want to ask a lot of what and hows, and I want to always move you toward the goal that you're looking for. So it was a kind of a no-brainer to jump into, this realm of entrepreneurship, and continue to connect with the people in the sports world.
You offer expertise on a number of different topics. Is there any one preferred or favorite topic or workshop that you enjoy presenting on?
Actually, it is, and again, it's if you can tell in when I talk that I don't just always talk about the, those quick buzzwords that we all like to hear. I don't like to reinvent the wheel, but I want people to reimagine the wheel, what you can use and how you can use that. And so one of the things that I enjoy speaking on, and I'm actually doing a presentation in November at Clemson University with their Women in Business program, is possibility, right? And you've heard me say this throughout this podcast. If we were in a group right now and we were asked to introduce ourselves, most people would say things like, hi, I'm Jane Doe and I've worked at said place for this long and I love dogs. Or I'm John Doe and I'm at this said company for, this X place and I'm just happy to be here. And then you'll get around to me and I will stand up and say, hi, my name is Yashica. I am a reader, thinker, jokester, and a possibility. And then I would sit down, and it's never failed to generate conversation, whether in the moment or throughout the convention or seminar or wherever we may be. And it's because I am passionate about believing in possibility. And it helps me when to connect to coaching clients. And it helps me when it comes to speaking on topics like self-awareness, professional development, success and failure, self-care. We're talking about work-life balance. All that has to do with you believing that the thing you're wanting to achieve is possible. And so when I'm speaking, you get to feel my authenticity and my zeal because I truly believe in this concept. And I want other people to know that they too are a walking, talking, breathing possibility. So at the end of the day, as a motivational speaker, I always want my message to challenge the audience to think different, feel different, and do different. And so whenever I get a chance to speak on the concept of possibility, it always hits for me. I'm always up for the challenge. And it's probably something I can do on the fly. You know, and I'll do it anywhere. Give me a Walmart counter, put me in the airport. If there's somebody who's out there and I can hear the dejection or this imposter syndrome or the idea of, man, I really want to, but I can't, I'll get on my soapbox real quick without a problem.
I love it. It's possible. And thank you for making this relationship with WeCOACH possible and YBM Coaching Services. Yashica, I am so grateful that our paths crossed at the Women's Final Four. We like to wrap up each podcast with a question, and I'll start with Matt if you'd like to begin, and then others want to chime in briefly. Give us your thoughts and advice. How do we move the numbers in terms of supporting and increasing women coaches in all sports and levels?
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa, and thanks for having me on the podcast today. You know, I think it's really important for both coaches who have been in the industry at any level, whether you're a high school coach or a college coach, as well as administrators, to be keeping an eye out for rising stars. I think that's kind of a responsibility that we should all have, especially those who are working at the different schools, universities, and colleges, and finding and mentoring, and not just necessarily being the mentor for that person, but also finding other good mentors for them, I think is really important. And that's going to help, push great female coaches forward, and to land in some of the opportunities and coaching positions that are out there, to increase those numbers. So I think that's, having been at a campus the last 9 years, that's something certainly took to heart, as I saw different coaches across different sports trying to figure out, can I make that leap from assistant coach to coaching, or even from an admin position into a coaching role? And that's a responsibility, certainly we all share.
I'll go ahead and jump in on that question. On a previous podcast, Vanessa, I heard you say this statement, if she can see her, she can be her. And I believe that concept is also applicable in terms of administration. It's not only that we need to have or see more women at the table with impactful decision-making power, but how can we educate all our athletes, all genders, that there are other ways to be involved in sport that can lend to them supporting, impacting, and increasing the number of women coaches. And kind of along the lines of what Matt said, additionally, how can we begin to prepare them for coaching readiness? How do we expose aspiring coaches to the non-technical side of coaching? Because we all know that coaching isn't just X's, O's, and timeouts, right? So can they begin to develop and strengthen the necessary skills they'll need along the journey to becoming a coach, which I think if they can develop those skills, they'll be able to sustain in the coaching business longer once they get their foot in the door. So I think those are some important things we can think about in increasing the number of women coaches in sport.
Man, y'all gotta offer some damn childcare. We cannot expect these women coaches to coach and not have to be concerned with childcare, especially how expensive it is. They be spending for like 2 or 3 kids, like $3,000-$4,000 a month. How do you expect women coaches to stay in coaching when that occurs? So I think for me, it's that schools need to start thinking a lot more thoughtful and intentfully about how they can support women who have kids and to keep them in coaching. They need to think about that. They need to do some type of partnership with some daycares around the area. They need to offer after school programs. Heck, if they got some type of school education type of thing at their school, they need to partner with them. They need to, the schools that think really intently about childcare are the ones that I think could absolutely continually to increase the number of women coaches. And as a byproduct of that, it will then assist male coaches, LGBT coaches, staff members, admin. It will help people better do their job, knowing that they are not having to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on childcare, or have to say, I either can coach or watch my kid. So I think that's one of the biggest things I think schools can do to help women stay in coaching is childcare. I think another thing is start to give women coaches the same type of experience or education that they give male coaches. Because what we tend to do is we tend to silo off coaches and say, okay, women coaches, you can only learn from here. Male coaches, you get to learn from everywhere. Nah, send your women coaches to learn from male coaches. Because we are okay with males coaching women. We're not okay with women coaching men. And so we need to start opening up more doors for women coaching men. And to do that, they need to gain more skills from the men's side. And so I'd say those are my two things.
Well said. Thank you for that. We're working right now. You mentioned childcare, and obviously with this, we're going to roll out throughout the year new member benefit partners as part of our 50th anniversary. We're also rolling out a toolkit for how administrators best support women in coaching and keep them in coaching. So, Jen, a lot of the suggestions you made are exactly what we're trying to focus on in this toolkit. But I was talking yesterday at our regional workshop with one of our other partners about the idea of, as part of this member benefits program, is there a national service that would be beneficial for our women coaching community that would offer childcare as they travel around for recruiting, for their different competitive athletic events, and team travel? Is there a national childcare service that we can partner with so that as our women coaches are traveling throughout the country, they have support and can continue to thrive not only as a mom at home, but in their coaching career? So thank you for that. And yes, we know that there's 5% women coaching men's sports. And we certainly have a lot of room to grow in terms of moving the numbers there. We are running low on time today, but Matt, Dr. Jen Fry, Yashica, thank you so much. Our entire WeCOACH community salutes you, and we are so excited to have you pour your expertise into our members as part of our member benefits partners. Thank you. And together, we will move the numbers to support and increase women in coaching. All right, WeCOACH community, be on the lookout. August 29th is our member benefits partners announcement. Thank you for listening to episode 5 of the WeCOACH podcast. And thank you again to our sponsor, Hudl, and production partner, WeSports. Please join us again on August 25th for a sneak preview of another and longtime WeCOACH supporter, also a benefits partner program member. The U.S. Marine Corps will be joining us. And follow us and share your comments on Twitter at WeCOACH and at WeSports, or on Facebook at WeCOACH Sports and at WeSports. Interested in learning more about any of our upcoming events, resources, membership, and donor options? Please visit our website at wecoachsports.org. And until next time, keep moving the numbers. We teach, we inspire, we motivate, we lead. WeCOACH.